Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to Legal TV, a law program here on SIKH Channel. My name is Davinder Singh Bal, Solicitor at Claim Today, and also Sevadar here at SIKH Channel, helping the SIKH Channel team in many different capacities. I'm very pleased today to be joined by an experienced and senior lawyer, Kulwinder Kaur Gill, who is an employment law specialist and advocate. Kulwinder, welcome to the SIKH Channel Legal TV show.
Thank you so much. It's a
Waheguru
pleasure
Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki
to
Fateh. Thank you very much for joining us. And before we start speaking about law and all matters legal, perhaps we can start by finding out a little bit about yourself. So, Kulwinder Kaur Gill, can you take us through your legal career briefly and perhaps your studies? What inspired you to pursue a legal career?
Sure, thank you. So I was born and bred in Chatham in Kent. I studied law at university and graduated and realized instead of just going on to the next thing and doing the LPC, which is the postgraduate course, I wanted to really gain some practical experience. So I got my first legal position and slowly started moving up to gain more experience. I started off in the personal injury civil litigation sector and then started transitioning over to litigation, both on the and defendant side. And it was a little bit challenging to get the elusive training contract. So during that time, I just continued to build my experience, build my network, and really get better in my chosen field. I then managed to get my training contract and qualified in 2017.
Sorry, just to interrupt there. Training contracts can be very difficult. I know that many years ago when I qualified, it was very difficult to get a training contract, and particularly if you're from a ethnic minority background. How difficult was it for you to become a trainee solicitor?
I faced many challenges as a trainee solicitor, and it was I feel that we have to try that much harder. We have double the challenges, not only as an ethnic minority individual, but also as a female as well. There can be a lot of discrimination, a lot more challenges and obstacles that we face. So, and what I found was there was a lot of false promises dangling the carrot. But I think resilience and perseverance is really the key here.
Absolutely. And any people who are watching, who are thinking of pursuing a profession in law as a solicitor or a barrister, what advice would you give to them?
Well, now the qualification has changed somewhat for solicitors with the SQE exam. But really, for anyone wanting to qualify as a lawyer, I think perseverance is the key and just never give up. There's going to be a lot of challenges, but it's really going to test you, and you've just got to keep going because you will get there in the end.
Absolutely. It's important to be determined and ambitious and focused. And so you came away from civil litigation, personal injury, and you now practice employment law. Can you tell us how your typical day looks as a employment law solicitor? For example, do you go to the tribunal a lot?
Yes. So typically, my day consists of vetting new cases, assessing the merits, taking detailed instructions from clients, all the documentation for the tribunal, schedules, witness statements, and really gathering the evidence and making sure that where there's opportunities to settle and save clients the time, cost, and money, then those are explored. I do get to attend tribunals as well. A lot of the hearings are taking place remotely at the moment, which can be more cost effective. So, so that it does have some challenges as well, but I think it's all helping with the backlog at the moment with the courts and the tribunals.
And do you think it's here to stay? Because I've been involved in a number of hearings and remote hearings. It is much easier joining the court via Microsoft Teams, and it seems much more convenient. I think the courts like it as well. Do you think this will stay?
Absolutely. I think it will be a good thing if it is here to stay because it has improved the efficiency and generally the backlog, how many cases the courts and tribunals are able to get through. It's also convenient for witnesses because it can be quite daunting going to tribunals and attending court. So, also for advocates, it's a lot more convenient because once you take the commute out, you can use that time more effectively to prepare or just go over everything. So I would hope it's here to stay, and it looks like it is heading that way.
And employment law, is it quite a difficult area of practice? Because I think with employment law clients and inquiries, many of those inquiries fail and don't get past the initial validation, the initial vetting, and they don't become cases, and the success rate can be quite low. Is that right? And why?
Yes, employment law is quite specialized, and there are some very technical components which the claimant must overcome in order to prove their claim and to be successful. So it's a constant vetting process at the outset, and also as the case progresses, something that started off as a which seemed to be a very successful case is not necessarily going to end as being successful. And then sometimes on the flip side, you could have cases which seem like they're not really going to be successful, but actually one piece of evidence can change the whole dynamic. So yes, it can vary, but the employment law sector area, because it's so fast paced.
And we've come away now from European regulation. I know that European law used to govern a lot of employment law. I presume it's all going to stay the same, that the rules and the case law is not going to change dramatically.
Whilst there has been some changes, not dramatically, because a lot of the principles and the legal framework itself is still there as the foundation, but it's constantly evolving. So I think we may see some more elements progresses.
And perhaps you could talk about race discrimination cases, if people feel they've been treated unfairly because of their race or ethnicity or the way they look. And are those cases very hard to prove?
These types of cases can be difficult to um, they can be difficult to prove. So it's very important to make sure that claimants, if they're considering bringing a claim, they make sure they are taking detailed records. There's some sort of timeline or chronology of events that have occurred, what has been said or done, and also key witnesses.
And are there more cases now being brought on the basis of race discrimination because of all the recent awareness. In the last year or two, we've had the Black Lives Matter movement, and generally there's more awareness amongst the public and a less accepting, less tolerance of putting up with bad behaviour or racist behaviour. Is there an increase in race claims?
It's difficult to say, but on the whole, I think claimants are becoming a little bit more resilient, but also they're becoming more robust, shall we say?
Can you please give us an example of a case you've dealt with based upon race, without giving the client a name or details? Just an overview, an example of a case you've dealt with in the last year or so.
Mhm. There was a recent case I dealt with where an employee had been overlooked in terms of commission payments and also was overworked but not really being paid for all these additional duties he was having to undertake. He was on a substantial salary, and I managed to negotiate all his back pay in terms of commission payment. It was very close to the employment door, but the client was very satisfied with the overall settlement, because what claimants need to realize is it's always better to get a good settlement without really having to go all the way. As long as the settlement is fair, the time and the stress you save is very important to appreciate that and realize that, because you're not going to get that time back. So it's important to take a commercial view as well on these matters.
That's tremendous, thank you. And equality of the sexes is more and more important and is rightly getting its awareness, and its equality between men and women is in the news quite a lot. I know there's a lot of cases with some of the councils paying females less than males. And sex discrimination cases, can you give us an example where you've acted for a man or a woman where they feel they've been discriminated on the basis uh, of their gender?
Yes, so we're beginning to see a lot more of this, particularly during the lockdown and working from home, where employees were required to return back to work, and a lot of females were having difficulties with childcare, for example, and the different working patterns, and not necessarily having the same childcare support network that they had before lockdown. For example, grandparents or some nurseries may have closed down due to lack of funding. So there were a lot more of those sort of disputes coming through, or where employees were trying to negotiate more flexibility around their hours.
That's great. And if somebody wants to pursue an employment law claim, what are the things they need to be aware of? For example, the 3-month rule, that's very important. What is that?
Yes, so most claims do need to be lodged with the tribunal within the 3 months. So it's very important to take early advice, because there can be some technicalities in terms of working out what that date is. It's not necessarily always clear cut. So it's important, if you feel that you've got a claim, to seek legal advice straight away.
Thank you, Kulwinder. And we've discussed briefly gender discrimination, race discrimination. Have you ever personally suffered any discrimination based upon your race or your gender as a woman from a Sikh Indian background progressing in the legal profession, which is a traditional archaic profession? Have you yourself encountered barriers or problems?
I have faced a number of challenges, unfortunately, but I think turning that around, it's made me that much stronger, that much more resilient, and that much more determined. And I have then gone on to mentor and support others, because I feel like the legal professional the legal profession is changing, is becoming more diverse, is becoming more open, and that's exactly how it should be.
Absolutely. And do you help clients from a Punjabi background, Asian background, with different language skills?
Yes, I tended to come across more Punjabi Asian clients when I was initially specializing in family law. I think it was very important to understand the background there and the cultural differences, and the taboo around divorce and separation. So I tended to get a lot more clients from our background then. Now, not so much on the race side. It tends to be a broad range, but yeah, I am fortunate to have a good diverse clientele at the moment.
That's tremendous. And if anybody has a problem and they want to have advice, obviously they can get in touch with you. Please do call the SIKH channel and we will pass you details on to Kulwinder Kaur Gill. You can call on 0121 380 1050 if anybody has any question or wants to ask for any advice. And looking forward, what are your plans for your career? Are you quite settled at the moment? For example, would you like to establish your own practice at some point in the future?
I think in terms of where I would like my career to go, is not necessarily opening my practice in the near future, but what I really want to do is use my position to really help others, women and male women and males, in terms of having a good, secure financial background, and also really helping them find their voice. So, what I want to use is my public speaking skills to build that platform and to show them the way in how they can do that, and how they can really, mainly with females, have their own money and have their own independence, so that they can then go on to get educated and go into any chosen career they wish.
Because it has changed dramatically in the last few decades. Perhaps in another time, girls were not expected to perhaps be so ambitious, but now men and women should be equally ambitious and have the same opportunities. And do you think it'll be different for the coming generation? Perhaps we had it a little bit harder because we were still breaking barriers of race, and you had additional barriers of gender. Do you think it's changing and it is getting better?
Absolutely. I think my parents would probably agree that I sort of broke the mold when I went to university, and was so determined, because we came from quite a strict background where, a lot of the extended family were putting pressure on my parents that girls shouldn't be educated. I'm one of four girls in my family, and I have a brother. But I was determined to break that mold, and my younger sister then followed suit and went on to do her marketing degree, and then my cousins followed suit. So it really changed the framework for females in my family. And I'm hoping that as time progresses, more and more females, start getting educated. And it seems to be that's the way things are moving, which is fantastic. And I really want to be part of that movement.
That's tremendous. In many ways, you are a role model, and I think inspiring other ladies to pursue their ambitions and their dreams. And you've changed your area of practice, and now you practice employment law, an area which you enjoy and thrive at. So I'm extremely pleased for you, and many congratulations. And we'd like to see how you progress with your career, and perhaps keep in touch with the SIKH channel. We'd like you to perhaps become a regular contributor to this program, Legal TV, on SIKH channel. And the purpose really is to offer perhaps a little bit of legal guidance to our viewers, but also to inspire and to encourage and help people who wish to pursue a profession, whether it's legal or any profession. And the experiences are transferable to other types of work as well. And finally, Kulwinder, if you weren't a solicitor, if you weren't a lawyer, what do you think you would have done? Perhaps you'd become a TV presenter at SIKH channel.
Yes, I love that question. Thank you. I mean, it's funny you should say that. I love working with some of my mentors at the moment. So I'm just looking to get into more public speaking. So I would love to have been some sort of motivational speaker on stage, speaking to thousands of people. But you never know. There's still hope.
That's tremendous. I'm sure we can make that possible via the SIKH channel platform. We reach millions of people around the world, and we're always looking for great role models such as yourself. And we will be progressing the legal TV segment. There'll be lots of other lawyers joining us and other professionals in due course. And I want to thank you very much for sharing your experiences and your expertise. And we hope to speak to you again soon.
No problem. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kulwinder. Thank you very much for joining us. Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh.